12 notes. Notes make intervals. Intervals make scales. There are two types, major and minor. They each have a formula, and they each have a relationship to one another. They actually produce each other, as we saw with relativity. Let's learn about chords now. So there are three types of triads that major and minor scales produce, and these are actually also the chords we're going to be using to write chord progressions and songs with. We've got major, made up of a root, a third, and a fifth. Minor, we've got a root, a flat third, and a fifth. And diminished, a root, a flat three, and a flat fifth. Major chords, I'm going to pick some note. Let's do G. I'm going to add a major third, so that's 4 half steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got a major third. I also need a perfect fifth, so I need to count 7 half steps from the root. I can also just go up 3 more from the major third, because it was 4. So 1, 2, 3. It is this note, D. Right here, I've got the ingredients, a root, a major third, a perfect fifth. Together, they make a major chord or a major triad. Let's use the same root note. Now we need a flat 3, so I can actually just go to the major third, go down a half step. So now it's B flat. So it's 3 half steps from G. I also need a perfect fifth. That was the note D. Root, flat 3, 5. I've got the ingredients to make a minor chord. Let's do diminished now. Let's take the same chord. I can just flat the 5 actually. G diminished. So G minor, G major. Now, this is the benefit of knowing the formulas for chords. I can just pick any note, it doesn't really matter, and then I just go to its major third and its perfect fifth. It's going to produce the chord every time. It's not even that useful, honestly, to know what the major third's letter name is or what the fifth's letter name is. If you can see interval relationships on the guitar and on the piano, then you can just play chords anywhere, as long as you know where the root notes are. And this is me just drilling in the importance, again, of really prioritizing learning where the notes on your fretboard are. Because if you know where the notes on the fretboard are, and you learn how to visualize intervals, as we're going to talk about, you can play chords anywhere. So the root note, the central generating tone of a chord, in the same way that C is the central generating tone of a C major scale. This is just saying that a C note is the root note of a C chord. It's the root note of a C major chord, a C minor chord, a C diminished chord, a C whatever chord. C is the root note relative to that chord. All chords have root notes. It is the note which most simply explains the presence of the others. What I mean by that is sometimes when there's many notes in chords, it can seem kind of confusing to know which one the root note is, and root notes don't always have to be in the bass either. So I'll just give a simple example. We're going to talk about inversions in a second here, but let's do it now. I'm going to play these notes. I've got a G, an E, and a C. Okay, so the little chord chart is telling us this is C major with a G in the bass. But what if I consider G the root? E would be its 6, and C would be its 4. That'd be kind of a weird chord, right? Like a root, a 6, and a 4. Like the ratio, the relationship, and the way that our brain is actually factoring ratios, it's always looking, so to speak, for the simplest answer to make sense of what we're hearing without getting too into that right now. But it's a much simpler explanation to just think that this is a C major chord, but the fifth is in the bass, rather than it's a G chord with a 6 and a 4. Like, it doesn't really sound like that. So that's all I mean when I'm saying it is the note which most simply explains the presence of the others. And yes, so the root note is not always in the bass. A chord where the root note is not in the bass is called an inversion. Okay, so inversions are a huge topic, and we're going to talk about them in this guitar course as well. It's a very, very simple concept that the piano does a really helpful job of explaining or visualizing. So if I just take the notes of a C chord, okay, I've got C, E, G, and I want to play it inverted, I can just take this note C and put it up top here. Okay, so now E is in the bass. When the third is in the bass, right, C, E is the third of C. When it is in the bass of the chord, we call that first inversion. Or a way to write it is by putting a slash. The slash is indicating what note is in the bass. This is saying what type of chord what note is in the bass. So C/E is saying it's a C major chord with an E in the bass of the chord. E is the lowest note of the chord. So if we continue the logic, I'm going to take this E and put it up top here and play the notes again. Okay, it's still the notes of the C major chord, C, E, G. However, G is in the bass. The fifth is in the bass. This is called second inversion. It also doesn't matter how many other notes I add. Like if I play another C up top or another G, right? Still, this guy is in the bass, so it's still considered an inversion.